watching World News Program with me, your host Miriam Zian. The headlines. Martyrs and wounded in a new Israeli violation in the Gaza Strip. The World Health Organization confirms the deaths of more than 1,000 patients awaiting medical evacuation, while Hamas expects the Miami talks to put an end to the Israeli violations. During the 33rd Algerian Production Fair, President Abdelmajid Tebboune praised the progress of the country's military industry and its support for strategic national projects, while Algerian economic operators commanded investment incentives boosting the agriculture sector, food security and sustainable development. In Sudan, killed and wounded in shelling by the RSF in South Kordofan. Death toll from the targeting of a power station in the north rises to 5, and the army says it struck strategic RSF positions in Yala, South Darfur. And on the Ukraine war, Putin says Kiev is not ready for peace talks, and the European Union unanimously agrees to lend Kiev 90 billion euros instead of using Russian frozen assets. The details of your nightly news. First, several Palestinian civilians were killed and others injured after Israeli forces struck a school sheltering displaced people near Al-Durra hospital in northeast Gaza City. At least 6 people died when the strike hit a wedding gathering on the school's 2nd floor, and heavy gunfire prevented rescue efforts. Meanwhile, 4 Palestinians were killed in Israeli airstrikes on Beni Suhaila east of Khan Yunis in the past 24 hours, including a woman with civil defense teams unable to recover the bodies. The World Health Organization said more than 1,000 patients in Gaza have died while waiting for medical evacuation. In a post on X, WHO Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus noted that the deaths occurred between July 2024 and November 28, warning the toll could rise as many patients still await evacuation, and urging more countries to admit Gaza patients and resume evacuations to the West Bank.
Many more patients remain in Gaza awaiting evacuation to receive appropriate healthcare. According to Ministry of Health, 1,092 patients have died while awaiting medical evacuation between July 2024 and November 28, 2025. However, this figure is likely underreported. WHO calls on more countries to open doors to patients from Gaza and for medical evacuation to the West Bank, including East al-Qudus, to be restored. Lives depend on it.
And the UNRWA confirmed that over 1.6 million people in Gaza face severe acute food insecurity. Commissioner General Philippe Lazzarini said on X on Friday that the crisis is man-made, caused by what he called genocidal crimes and deliberate starvation by the Israeli occupation. He urged a large-scale delivery of supplies and support for humanitarian workers to end the catastrophe. The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres expressed deep concern on Friday about the ongoing human suffering in Gaza, stating that it breaks my heart. His remarks followed the release of the latest Integrated Food Security Phase Classification (IPC) report, which highlighted that while famine has been temporarily avoided, over 1.6 million people in Gaza, more than 75% of the population, are expected to face severe food insecurity and high risks of critical malnutrition.
But the gains are fragile, perilously so. And 1.6 million people in Gaza, more than 75% of the population, are projected to face extreme levels of acute food insecurity and critical malnutrition risks. It breaks my heart to see the ongoing scale of human suffering in Gaza. Families are enduring the unendurable. Children are forced to sleep in flooded tents. Buildings already battered by bombardment are collapsing under the weight of rain and wind, claiming more civilian lives.
And a senior Hamas official said the Miami talks on Friday must end Israeli violations of the Gaza ceasefire. Bassem Naim, a political bureau member, stressed that Palestinians expect the talks to halt all Israeli aggression. The U.S. is hosting the talks in Florida, where President Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff will meet officials from Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey to advance the second phase of the ceasefire.
Our people expect these talks to result in an agreement among the participants, to put an end to the ongoing Israeli arrogance, to stop all violations and transgressions, and to hold the occupation accountable under the provisions of the Sharm el-Sheikh Agreement.
Palestine's UN envoy Riyad Mansour said the UN declaration on the granting of independence to colonial countries and peoples enshrines the principle that all people are born free and equal. On its 65th anniversary, he noted it helped many nations gain independence, but for Palestinians it remains a long-delayed promise with serious humanitarian consequences.
The right to self-determination stands among the purposes of the United Nations. It stands at the top of the two international human rights covenants. It is the most decisive right in our international social contract. For the Palestinian people, however, this declaration remains an unfulfilled promise, a pledge yet to be honored, delayed for far too long, with unbearable human consequences.
And the International Criminal Court, the ICC, strongly rejected U.S. sanctions on two of its members, calling them a blatant attack on judicial independence. The Hague-based court said targeting judges and prosecutors undermines the rule of law and threatens the international legal system. The Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune stressed the importance of the country's military industry, highlighting its high quality and its expansion into various technological fields. During his visit to the Algerian Ministry of Defense Pavilion at the 33rd Algerian Production Fair in Algiers on Thursday, he praised the significant progress made by the nation's military industry.
اللونجا نتاعنا ما شاء الله اللونجا نفسه تاعنا اللونجا كاين لي زونجا هنا وكاين من برا تشوفوا انا نقول لك شوف علاه نركز على الصناعه العسكريه. اولا جوده، فيها الجوده، فيها الروح الوطنيه العاليه، غزو مساحات جديده من التكنولوجيا ومن كذا، وثالثا الاكتفاء الذاتي. وانتم قاطره باسكو خرجنا من هذيك تاع زمان يجيب دي كيت يجي كلكو بوان سودير يقول لك انتاج جزائري، ماهوش انتاج جزائري. تركيب بتات مي بالنسبه للجيش انا نلاحظوا باللي فيه كل معرض فيه تقدم.
President Tebboune also praised the Algerian military support for strategic national projects across the country. Let's have a listen.
تصور لو كان درنا السكه الحديديه هذه وما عندناش متفجرات نتاعنا وما عندناش هذه، يعني عوض سنه ونص في 1000 كيلومتر كنا نديروا 5 سنوات ل 10 سنوات ومصاريف الحمد لله. والان في غرج بلاد عندنا كذلك زيدوا هنا غرج بلاد، لان الان احنا في 26 نعطيهم 180 طن، والاول التجارب راح تكون 25 في الشهر هذا في غرج بلاد نعطيهم في وغادي نبداو في 180 طن في 26 ونحن نطلعوا حتى 30 وصلوا. وحنا المؤسسات نتاعنا راهي جاهزه باه تلبي كل الحاجيات نتاع.
And during a visit he paid to the stand of LDM laboratory specialized in manufacturing various types of medicine, President Tebboune hails the significant progress made in the pharmaceutical field in Algeria, urging for more successes in the future.
أنا نقاسمك الفخر بالنسبة لنا كجزائريين كل رئيسا ولا مواطنا أننا وصلنا لهالدرجة تاع إنتاج الأدوية. الجزائر معروفة رائد على مستوى الإفريقي، ربما حتى على مستوى بعض القارات الأخرى وجزء من القارات أمريكا اللاتينية وغيرها. أتمنى باش نزيد نواصل، هذا شرف كبير أننا نصل إلى هذا المستوى ونطمح إلى ما أحسن. أنا نطلب منكم باتصال مع أشقائنا الأفارقة أننا نحاول كيفاش نكون المنبع نتاع اللقاحات بالنسبة للأمراض الإفريقية.
And while visiting the stand of Gipley Group, specialized in the development, processing and marketing of milk and dairy products and agricultural activities, President Tebboune threatens tradesmen who will be caught in practice and speculation in citizens' subsidized foodstuffs and that they will pay a heavy price. Let's have a listen.
اليوم عرفنا باللي المضاربة ما هيش من نقص، مضاربة بارازيتار. ده هو الناس تاجر مش قاعد تجار حاشا اللي ما يخافش ربي، يعطوه 20 صندوق يصير به خمس صناديق على جماعة الحي ويخرج لهم يقول لهم راه كمل، الباقي يمشي في مكان آخر باش يتباع تحت الطاولة بسعر ضعف السعر نتاعو. هاد الناس هادو العدالة راها تستنى فيهم. اللي حكمناه يزيد يدير مضاربة في الأكل نتاع المواطن ولا الشرف تاع المواطن مدعم راه يندم عليها طول حياته. إذن مي فو دوفي جوي ان رول. دونك البلاصة وين تشوفوا النقص فو زينوندي وحنا اوني لا بور فو كومبونسي سكي ا كومبونسي.
The Algerian economic operators praised the country's investment law, highlighting that it provides important incentives and advantages to encourage investment in the agriculture sector, including tax benefits, simplified administrative procedures, and a more attractive environment for investors, supporting food security and sustainable economic development. They also noted that the 33rd Algerian Production Fair offers an opportunity to showcase the capabilities of Algerian agricultural producers. Algeria and Egypt emphasized the importance of strengthening brotherly relations, cooperation and partnership during a meeting at Qasr al-Tahrir in Cairo between Algeria's Minister of State and Foreign Affairs Ahmed Attaf and his Egyptian counterpart Badr Abdelati. The meeting, part of Attaf's official visit to attend the second ministerial session of the Russia-Africa Partnership Forum, included a review in the 9th Algeria-Egypt Supreme Joint Committee held in Cairo on November 26, with both ministers praising the quality of the outcomes. Algeria's Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf and his Egyptian counterpart Badr Abdelati exchanged views on issues of mutual concern. These included the situation in Gaza and the broader Palestinian issue, the crisis in Sudan and Libya, and recent developments in the security and political landscape of the Sahel region, according to a statement from the Algerian Foreign Ministry. The UN Special Envoy to Libya, Hannah Tete, said the UN mission is ready to facilitate an agreement between the High Council of State and the House of Representatives, adding that it plans to convene meetings of supporting teams within the structured dialogue process to advance political talks.
I had informed that the two committees on sovereign positions of the House of Representatives and the High State Council, respectively, had agreed on the 4th of October to reconstitute the HNEC within 2 weeks. Despite multiple efforts and engagements with these institutions, this did not happen. While the High State Council provided names to the House of Representatives for selection of a chair of HNEC, there was no further progress. It is our assessment that the delays are a manifestation of the lack of trust between the two institutions, their own internal divisions, and the inability to overcome their differences and agree on the way forward to resolve the current impasse. But I must acknowledge, however, the serious efforts by some members of these institutions to advance these two processes. Therefore, we will continue our work with HNEC to facilitate the conduct of presidential and legislative elections.
And the A3+ group at the UN Security Council, comprising Algeria, Somalia, Sierra Leone and Guyana, has urged Libyan parties to engage in the UN-led dialogue as part of the political roadmap outlined by the UN mission in Libya. Speaking during a Security Council session on Libya, Algeria's permanent representative to the UN, Ammar Ben Jama, stressed on behalf of the group that the political process must be Libyan-owned, warning that foreign interference continues to undermine Libya's unity and stability.
We also underscore the imperative of placing Libyan ownership and leadership at the very heart of any credible process, with the ultimate aim of ending this transitional period. Stability in Libya remains uncertain amid external interference. This situation is further exacerbated by the continued flow of arms and weapons and fuel smuggling. We therefore demand the immediate withdrawal of all foreign forces, all foreign fighters and mercenaries from the country. Libya's sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity must be fully respected.
Libya's UN envoy Tahir al-Sudni said that keeping Libyans on UN sanctions lists for over 15 years hinders national reconciliation and called for a review. Speaking at a Security Council session on Libya on Friday, he stressed that future political dialogue must follow the Libyan political agreement and roadmap, reject partial solutions, hold free and fair elections, and reform the High National Elections Commission. He also praised Algeria's efforts during its non-permanent UN Security Council term.
We urge Security Council members to act more decisively in removing Libyan citizens from the sanctions list, as the reason for their inclusion have not existed for over 15 years. This would signal support for comprehensive reconciliation in Libya without further politicizing the matter. Madam President, we know the structured dialogue initiative and hope Libya can agree on recommendations for areas of disagreement, enabling authorities to address imbalances effectively. We reiterate that any future dialogue, including the structured dialogue, must respect governing references, especially the 2018 Libyan political agreement. Special thanks to His Excellency Ambassador Ammar Ben Jama and for all the Algerian team representing the Arab and African group, and for all efforts supporting the Libyan file in the Council.
And in Sudan, several people were killed and others injured after rapid support forces shelled civilians in Daling, South Kordofan. According to the Sudanese Doctors Network, at least 26 people were killed, including women, the elderly, and children, with others injured due to deliberate artillery shelling by the RSF and its allied Popular Movement over the past 48 hours, exacerbating civilian suffering and causing significant losses. In the same context, the Sudanese army launched a drone strike targeting rapid support forces positions in Yala, South Darfur, on Friday. The strikes hit RSF command centers, Nyala Airport, combat vehicles, and rocket launchers previously used to attack civilians, aiming to weaken RSF capabilities and protect the population. And in ongoing conflict developments, Russian President Vladimir Putin said Moscow does not believe Ukraine is ready for peace talks. In media remarks on Friday, Putin affirmed Russia's readiness for dialogue to resolve the Ukrainian crisis based on principles set by the Foreign Ministry in 2024, emphasizing Russia's desire to end the conflict peacefully.
And now, in fact, they are refusing to end the conflict by peaceful means. Nevertheless, we do see, feel and know of certain signals, including from the Kiev regime, that they are ready to engage in some kind of dialogue. The only thing I want to say is that we have always said this as well. We are ready and willing to resolve the conflict by peaceful means, on the basis of principles that I set out in June of last year at the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and provided that the causes that led to this crisis are eliminated.
On the ground, he announced that Russian forces are advancing along the entire front line of the special military operation.
Immediately after our troops drove the enemy from the Kursk region, the strategic initiative, passed entirely into the hands of the Russian armed forces. What does this mean? It means that our troops are advancing all across the line of contact, faster in some areas or slower in some others, but the enemy is retreating in all sectors.
European Union leaders have unanimously decided to provide Ukraine with a 90 billion euros interest-free loan to cover its military and budgetary funding needs. Nabil Khazini has the report.
As Kiev stood on Friday morning, news of a critical decision echoed through the city. The European Union has pledged 90 billion euros in financial support to Ukraine over the next 2 years. The EU opted for loans, wary that using frozen Russian assets could deepen tensions with Moscow. And with Ukraine's financial reserves nearly depleted, this lifeline is not just welcome, it is essential.
I understand that not everyone supports this idea. Perhaps they are afraid and do not want to escalate tensions with Russia. That's how I see it. That is why they gave their own money for now and will reassess later, depending on how Russia will act.
What matters most is that they are supporting Ukraine. If using their own funds is easier than using Russia's frozen assets, that's their decision and their right.
The initial plan was to use the frozen Russian assets in Europe as collateral for the loan. But that idea quickly fell apart. Belgium raised too many objections, and with every attempt to fix one problem, a new one seemed to emerge. In the end, though, it didn't really matter. What mattered most, as the EU leaders agreed, was getting the money to Ukraine without delay.
We will provide a loan backed by the European Union budget. This will address the urgent financial needs of Ukraine. And Ukraine will only repay this loan once Russia pays reparations. The Union reserves its right to make use of the immobilized asset to repay this loan.
And there in Moscow, Russian President Vladimir Putin made it clear that the assets stolen or seized would eventually need to be returned. He hinted at challenging the process in court, emphasizing that Russia would defend its interests through legal channels, seeking jurisdictions independent of political influence. A quiet reminder that this financial struggle, though urgent, was far from over.
No matter what and how they steal, they will need to give it back at some point. Besides, we will defend our interests in courts. We will try to find a jurisdiction which will be independent of political decisions.
While the situation continues to evolve, one thing remains certain. The stakes are immense. Every decision, whether made in boardrooms, courtrooms, or on the battlefields, will have lasting consequences, shaping not just Ukraine's future, but the very fate of Europe itself.
In other news, President Donald Trump said he's keeping the option of war with Venezuela on the table in an interview with NBC News published on Friday. He refused to provide details on whether measures targeting sanctioned oil tankers entering and leaving Venezuela could lead to war, but indicated that the United States will carry out further seizures of oil tankers. The U.S. military announced the killing of 5 individuals described as terrorists and drug traffickers during strikes targeting 2 ships suspected of drug smuggling in the East or Eastern Pacific Ocean. According to U.S. Southern Command on Thursday via X, 3 of the traffickers were killed on the first ship and 2 on the second, with no U.S. military personnel harmed. And an entire mountain range in Anshun, Guizhou is now blanketed with solar panels. New footage shows vast photovoltaic bases stretching across the high-altitude landscape with tens of millions of panels and roads weaving through them. In a region known for dramatic mountains and tough farmland, these slopes have become the perfect place to capture the powerful southwestern sun. More details and the story with Nabil Khazini.
Guizhou is known for its steep, abrupt mountains, a landscape tough on farmers, but ideal for one thing: capturing the strong, generous sunlight of China's southwest. This vast installation is one of China's largest single solar power projects, and the first of its kind in Guizhou. It is true that it has changed the land, but it is also changing the lives of those who depend on it for the best.
Now our Guangling photovoltaic project stands as the first in Guizhou province and the largest single photovoltaic project in China. In addition to our town, 3 other surrounding towns have also participated in the construction of this photovoltaic project.
This massive installation is part of the Guangling Panjian million-kilowatt photovoltaic base, with a planned capacity of about 1,330 megawatts, enough to supply nearly 2 million homes. Each year, it is expected to generate more than 1 billion kilowatt-hours of clean energy, replacing hundreds of thousands of tons of coal and cutting over 1 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions.
The photovoltaic project has been incredibly helpful. All our barren land has been rented out, providing us with a steady income of several thousand yuan each year, which is far better than when it was lying fallow. My uncles help with the maintenance and installation of the solar panels when they have free time, earning some extra money to supplement the family income.
China's solar installations continue to grow rapidly. In the first half of 2025, China added 210 gigawatts of new solar capacity, helping push total installed capacity well beyond 1,000 gigawatts, making it the first country in the world to exceed this landmark.
China's total wind and solar installed capacity has exceeded 1.7 billion kilowatts at present, already surpassing thermal power to become the largest electricity source, with more than 200 million kilowatts of new renewable capacity added each year, making good use of the huge market advantages of the full wind-solar industry chain will, on the one hand, lower the production costs of green petroleum, and on the other, expand the green premium advantages brought by new industries, allowing green petroleum to become a new green power product that drives green and low-carbon development.
In Guizhou's mountain towns, a new kind of harvest is taking shape, not from the soil, but from the sun. A vast solar project is bringing opportunity to communities long limited by the land beneath their feet.
And that is the end of our news bulletin for tonight. Thanks for watching and have a great night.